My name's Renell. I'm a young rep and I'm a young trustee for Young Epilepsy.
Hi, Renell. I'm Jamie Redknapp. It's great to talk to you, mate. And I hope you're keeping well. Obviously, strange time. Sorry, I've just been training, so I'm a bit sweaty. I'm trying to keep myself busy. And how about you? What have you been up to this morning?
Oh no, I've literally just got up, but I'm gonna do a workout session later. So yeah.
Great. So who you do that? Who you do that with?
Oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that with my brother. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's nice. So what's your brother do?
But he plays football too. He's at Liverpool at the moment. He's a
Oh,
goalkeeper like me.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Brilliant. So, well, he's got, I was at Liverpool as a kid, so that's great. Wish him all the best for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely will. I've got a few
Yeah, I
questions
mean,
to ask you.
hey, fire away. Anything you need.
Okay. So, like, can you tell us a bit about your career and why you wanted to become a footballer?
Oh, wow. Well, Renell, my dad was a footballer, and as a kid, I just fell in love with the game really early. Every sort of picture I've seen as a young man, I had a football in my hands. I had an older brother, and he was obviously obsessed with football as well. But because your dad's a footballer doesn't necessarily mean that I was going to be one. I had to really, really work hard. I had to sort of dedicate myself when a lot of my mates at 16, 17 wanted to go out and,
Mm,
maybe do things that they shouldn't. I had to try and be sensible. Not
yeah.
always, I must admit, but I tried my best. And I had a lot of dedication. I think that was the thing. And having a dad was obviously helpful because he guided me. But it doesn't mean you're going to be a footballer because your dad played. Otherwise, the country would be full of
Yeah.
ex-footballers'
Yeah.
sons. It just doesn't work like that. So I obviously had a lot of a lot of dedication. I had a little bit of skill as well, which helped, and
Mm,
I wanted it so badly. And I'm sure it's like your brother, like yourself. You're obviously you're a football fanatic, football
yeah.
background. You have to really work hard. There's no shortcuts in life, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely look up to my brother, and that's another reason why I wanted to go and goal. So yeah.
Good, good,
What has
good.
your football career taught you in life?
I think the best thing that I find it's just you know I, football's taught me a lot, but also my parents and manners and being kind to people, trying realizing that nobody's better than anybody else. We're all especially right now, has probably proved it more than ever. Doesn't matter what you've got, how much money. We're all in a situation where we all need each other. We all need to help.
Exactly.
And football has given me such an opportunity because I've traveled the world. I've done things that I never thought I'd do. I've met some incredible people. I've met fantastically kind people. I've met people that are very ambitious and maybe not always very nice and look after themselves, which isn't all, so you learn, especially in football, it can be cutthroat. You have to really
Yeah.
be careful about who you trust, etc. And I'm sure, your brothers realize that, Renell, and it's the same for you. You have to really be careful who you choose. Some people have got your best interest at heart, others haven't. So no, I've been very fortunate that it's been really kind to me and my family. Football's given me everything, and I absolutely love it. I miss it right now. I can't wait to watch it
Yeah.
again. I'm sure you're the same.
So yeah, I really enjoy my football, and one of my goals is to be is to be an established goalkeeper. How do you keep focused when you're working towards a goal?
Well, I think what in terms of in general or right now, do you mean?
Yeah, right now, just in life, like any goal that you
Yeah.
want to.
Well, I think this is a really important time, as in, we're not able to maybe go and train with your team or whatever. So right now you can still do so much work. There's nothing to stop you going for your run when you've got
Yeah,
you can train. You can still do a little bit of work. Go to the park. You're very fortunate. You've got a brother that's obviously got the same passion as you. And I always think it's quite simple. Like I had to, I think to become a footballer, you need talent, first of all, which you've obviously got. Then it's how hard do you want to work?
yeah,
How much dedication have you got to be better than the next man? How much do you want to be the best that you can be? How much do you want to, when everyone's finished, maybe, you know what, you are tired, but I'm going to do a little bit more. I might
yeah,
do some core work. I might do some strength work. I might do some squats just to be the best that you can be. Because if it doesn't work out and maybe if you don't make a footballer, in your mind, you've got no doubt, you don't leave yourself with any doubt that you didn't try your best.
yeah,
Because I always find I'm a little bit sort of, OCD with certain things, but, as a kid, I used to go out in the garden and I had an old bird cage that my granddad made.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go in until I'd hit it a certain amount of times every night. Now, some people might think that's crazy, and it probably was a little bit, but that's what made me, I had that determination all the time that I wanted to succeed. I wanted to do it. So I think from that point of view, you've got to have that mindset of a champion. You know, like look at Ronaldo. Like he's different, I suppose, to a certain
Yeah.
extent. But you can take a little bit of that. You can look at his work ethic and go, you know what, that's how I want to be. You
Yeah.
know,
First of
because
all. Yeah.
yeah, he's unique. Like we're not the Ronaldos, the Messi. But I would always say, and it's quite simple, there are no shortcuts.
Yeah. So what advice like do you have for young people trying to achieve their goals?
I would say, Renell, that you've just got to, you know, I think having good basic, you know, the basics and fundamentals in life are be kind to people, listen, learn, extract information from people that you look at and go, I like what they do. And don't ever be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't ever be afraid to say to someone, and if they're a kind person, they'll help you. You know, if you looked at someone and thought, I love how they do that. How do they make that save?
Yeah.
How do they manage to use, you know,
Yeah.
that left hand rather than go with the right? Then if they've got something about them, they go, yeah, I think you can work on that. And if you practice that, and maybe you can work on your spring, just those little fine details, and always be thank you, you know, to please and thank you with people, I think goes a long way. But never be afraid to ask questions.
Like pressure is like it's such a big thing like in everything we do. As a pundit or when even when you're on the pitch, how did you personally find it best to deal with pressure?
Do you know what? It's a really good question because I used to get really nervous. I get quite nervous on the TV sometimes, you know, when you're talking and you go live and
Yeah.
it's like the first catch or
Yeah.
the first pass.
Yeah.
If I drop it or I give the ball away, you know, I'm like, oh, I get that anxiety, that nerves. So I think it's the same when I'm working on the football. You know, when I used to play, that I used to get really nervous, and I tried so hard to sort of get out of that because I think sometimes it's not good. It's nice to have it like butterflies because that means you're ready,
Yeah.
you know. But there were times when I used to get really nervous, especially when I played for England. You know, I broke my ankle twice playing for England. I tore my hamstring, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that comes from wanting it too badly, trying too hard at times. So now I look back at my career and I think I wish I would have maybe been able to speak to somebody. Nowadays, there's a lot of people that are out there to help with your nerves or with anxiety or any mental health issues that we have. And I probably would have really benefited from that. But unfortunately, that wasn't really around at the time. And also, I think if you looked for help, you were seen as maybe it was a sign of weakness, which is a shame as well. But I think it's just important to try to breathe. You know, I like what you know, I think meditation sometimes is something that's really good for people, yoga, to try and understand that you have to take that time away from your, you know, the stresses and strains of life because
Yeah, exactly.
life can be difficult. It's never, you know, even when you see people on Instagram, Twitter, and you think, oh, they've got the perfect world. It's not always rosy. You know,
Yeah.
everyone goes through difficult times. And it's just, you know, and that's why that's a good question. You know, you've got to find what works for you to take yourself away every now and again.
Yeah. Do you think you needed to trust more in your ability?
Yeah, I would
Or,
say so. I think that's a really good question, a really good point, because there were times when, like you, I knew I had talent. You know, I knew I could play, but sometimes I doubt myself. Someone says something negative about me in the press. Sometimes you get a message on Instagram or Twitter. But you've got to remember that it doesn't matter. It's not real.
being an athlete, I know that I learned so many life skills like mental toughness, leadership, communication. What
Yeah.
about being an athlete, like for you, do you think has made you a better person?
Yeah, I would 100% say so. It can also make you quite selfish at times. You know, when I look back at my life and career, maybe I was, you know, because you get in a bubble, you know,
Yeah,
and you're with your team all the time, and you don't necessarily see sometimes if your friends are going through difficult problems, and maybe I take that for granted.
yeah,
But I've certainly changed as I've got older and I've become more of a caring, thoughtful person. Um, because there were times when I was younger and I probably did, you know, my dad had to sometimes say, listen, you're not, you know, you making sure mum's okay, you're looking after, you know, making sure your brothers are right and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, you know what, he's right. You can be selfish sometimes, and that's not always kind to be like that.
yeah. So the mental side in football is such a big thing, and I
Yeah.
know that different players have things that they do to prepare, like before going into a game. I use positive self-talk. How do you prepare mentally before going into a game?
That's it. So when you say, how do you manage to do that then, Renell? What do you do?
Well, I just say like, oh, I can do this. I'm good enough.
Yeah.
I say like positive words to me, positive words to myself, and then
Yeah.
that gets me ready to go into the game.
Yeah. I think that's great. I mean, that's the sort of thing you've got to do. And never be, I think in life, never be afraid to do things like that. Never be afraid to, because there are people that will go, and as an example, as a kid, I always used to go do extra training on my own. And I know there were kids that would go, oh, you're just a licker. You're just doing it, to show this. And I was like, no, I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because it makes my brain feel better. I know that if I do that, I'm in a better place mentally to tackle whatever it is that's thrown at me. And I used to do things a little bit like what you said there. I would try to sort of, it is mind over matter. It is about telling yourself you're good. It is about if you make a mistake in life, in goal, on the pitch, to not let it bother you and make sure that you can bounce back from it. Because it's very easy to sometimes, you're a young man, how old are you, 20 years of age?
Yeah, 20, yeah.
Yeah, so you then go into your shell. You've got to go, right, I can do this. I'm a big guy. I'm a man. I can handle any situation that's thrown at me. And that comes from there. And sometimes you've almost got to trick your mind. And you have to talk to people if you are struggling with a little bit of, that anxiety or pressure sometimes builds up on you. And that's when you need good friends around you. You need your family. You need someone you trust. And I think that's never be afraid to talk to people.
Yeah.
I think we're in a better world than, as a 20-year-old for you than it was when I was a 20-year-old. As I say, if I'd have had this conversation with my coaches and they would have looked at me and probably gone, get on with it. Well, you're weak mentally, and that's how it was. Whereas I think now people are a lot more open to it. I think we understand people's health as much as the brain is the most important muscle in our body. It's the most important thing we've got. So if that's right and that's happy and that's working in the right capacity, there's nothing you can't achieve.
Yeah, a lot of the time we really like don't think about that. Yeah, thank you for that advice. So also thank you for your time. It's been great interviewing you.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. And I tell you what, the way you are and that you've got a great way about you, in terms of interviewing and sitting down and talking, it's been a real pleasure for me. And
First time.
I'm looking forward to hearing about you and your brother in a few years. No problem at all. Thanks so much, guys. Really nice to speak to you. And wish the best to your brother as well, yeah?
Thank you. I'll tell him
Take care.
that.
Stay safe, guys.